We're going to go live on Facebook as well. Welcome, dear friends, and of course to our Zoom followers and all those who are tuning in on YouTube as well. So, my friends, we've reached a very unusual part of Megillat Esther. We're on part 3. And seemingly, here at the end of chapter 7, the Megillah should finish. It should be over. Why? Because we had a problem. And the problem was a guy called Haman. Boo. And Haman, as we know, came from a nation called Amalek. And Amalek want one thing and one thing only: to wipe out the Jewish people at any cost, at any expense. And Haman was willing to spend thousands and thousands of silver pieces, 10,000, in order to wipe out the Jewish people. Of course, as we know for the past 2 weeks, Esther was chosen by Hajioff. Not coincidentally, God's in charge of the story. And Mordechai is outside the palace, and they created a scheme, a very dangerous, almost suicidal mission, in order to save the Jewish people and see Haman dead. And what they chose was to insinuate to Ahasuerus that Haman was primed and ready to take Ahasuerus' position. That is exactly what they were trying to do. And they gave that impression. Unfortunately for Haman, the plan worked. Haman was found guilty, and he was hanged on the same gallows that he wanted to hang Mordechai on. As we say in Hebrew, midah keneged midah. One of the great themes of Megillat Esther is measure for measure. What you try to do to others is going to come back to you. Okay, we spoke about that before. That should be the end. Dayenu. Haman is dead. Esther is alive. She managed to survive this almost suicidal mission of insinuating that Haman was trying to get Ahasuerus' permission, and that maybe she and Haman were in collusions together. That's how it could have been interpreted. It wasn't. Esther gets to remain alive. She's still married to Ahasuerus. Mordechai is also still alive. That should be it. And yet the Megillah carries on, because although Haman is dead, the decree that he created almost a year before was still in effect. And that decree that was made not a year before, a little bit before, was that on the 13th day of the last Jewish month of the year, the month of Adar, all the Jewish people could be wiped out and killed by their neighbors. Not only that, the people who attacked them would not be charged with any offense, and they could keep their homes and their money and everything else. And so, this decree was still alive. Haman is dead, but his legacy is still going on. So we got ourselves, my friend, a very, very big problem. And Mordechai and Esther are now going to have to think of a scheme not to kill Haman because he's gone, but to get rid of the decree that Haman left. That in less than a year, all the Jewish people were going to get killed and all their money taken by whoever killed them and their homes. It's literally Germany 1945. I mean, Hitler's dead, but there's still people who want to kill Jews. So what precisely are they going to do? And this was a very, very difficult decision to come to, of what course of action they were going to go with. Now, the obvious answer most people would say is, what's the big deal? Haman sent out a decree on the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. All the Jews should be killed. We'll basically send out a note saying, no, you know what? That decree is reversed. Don't worry about it. Ignore it. It's all done. That would seem to be the obvious answer to this dilemma. And yet, they didn't do that. Why not? And the simple answer is because Ahasuerus didn't allow it. You see, if you start sending out decrees, and then in a few weeks you say, ignore that decree, then every subsequent decree that you send out is always in danger of being ignored because, hey, he reversed that one, he'll reverse the next one, or the one after that. It cheapens your power base. So Achashverosh says, no, but I will do the following. I'm going to give all of Haman's possessions, his palace, and the ring that was on his finger, which was his way of making a decree, I'm going to give that to Mordechai, and I'm going to give that to Esther. And so when everyone finds out that Beis Haman has been given, the house of Haman has been given to Esther, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? Esther's Jewish. We know she is. She's still married. Achashverosh loves her. We'd better not hurt the Jewish people. And not only that, they took the ring and put it onto Mordechai's finger. That should definitely be enough. And yet Mordechai and Esther were still really, really perturbed. They were like, it's not enough. And they started to really plead. Esther gets down and she falls at the feet of Achashverosh saying, the decree is still there. It's not enough that you gave me his palace. It's not enough that you gave the ring to Mordechai. What's going to happen is everyone's still going to kill all the Jewish people and take their money. Because money speaks louder than words. And so no one's going to respect what's happened over there. They're not going to care about me or Mordechai. We're all dead. So Achashverosh just finds a compromise. And he says, you know what? You cannot reverse the previous decree. But there is something that you can do. And that is you can make a new decree. And whatever you write in it is good with me. But you can't delete that one. You can only add to it. Which means that previous decree of Haman, which I signed off on, that said all the Jews are going to be killed, that's still there. You guys can figure out a way to make sure that the Jewish people are not going to get killed, but you can't reverse that decree. So Mordechai and Esther came up with a very, very smart and cunning plan. And they issued the following decree that they sent out as fast as they could all over the 127 provinces that Achashverosh ruled over. And the decree was that wherever a Jew is allowed to fight back and to go against anyone who wants to hurt them. Not only that, if the Jew wins, they get to keep all of the spoils of war. And that's the decree that they sent out. So the first decree was there. Yep, you can kill Jews. And beforehand, we didn't care. All the money, you could take it. Came another decree, in addition, not instead of the first one, that says, but be careful, because if you do it and you lose, we're not going to hurt the Jew. They're entitled to defend themselves, and they're going to get to keep what they took from you instead. And that's the decree that went out. And this, Mordechai and Esther felt, quite correctly, would at least hold back many, many people who were a little bit worried that maybe there was a turn of attention and consideration for the Jewish people. And it worked. And the decree went out. And when they saw the decree, when the masses of Jews saw it, they were like, you know what? This is good enough. We're okay. And there was actually a very big celebration that went out through all the Jewish world, that they were allowed to defend themselves, they won't get into trouble for doing it, and if they fought and won, they were equal when it came to all the other people. So pretty much the playing field hadn't been eliminated, but at least it had been leveled, and the Jewish people were in a better position that they were able to defend themselves. And that's what happened. And not only that, Mordechai got to get dressed up. Once again, clothing, we mentioned, is a major theme in all of the Megillah. We said that Vashti was clothed, and Esther got clothed, and Ahasuerus dressed up, and Mordechai is now going to get dressed up in beautiful clothing a second time in the Megillah. And that's one of the reasons that we dress up on Purim, because of course God is clothing himself in the Megillah. You don't see God's hand explicitly at work over here. You don't even see God's name mentioned once in all of the book of Esther. The only book in all of scriptures where God's name is not mentioned. And so Mordechai is led out wearing beautiful, regal, royal clothing on a beautiful horse, and a great celebration comes out. This is even before the 13th of Adar comes, because they needed to show that Mordechai, who was the chief rabbi of Shushan, of Persia, and well beyond, was a respected individual. So Mordechai and Esther thought this also will send an impression, this is how important this Jew is, you better not touch his people. And that worked as well. So they really piled on as much as they could, Mordechai and Esther, to make sure the decree of Haman would not take effect without, of course, removing it. And there's a very unusual line that we read out aloud all together when the Megillah is being read, and interestingly, it's read out and sung at the Havdalah ceremony by many people on Motzei Shabbat, as Shabbat leaves us on Saturday night. And the words are LaYehudim Ha'eta, to the Jewish people there was Orah, V'simcha, there was light, there was happiness, V'sason, V'kar, and there was joy, and there was great honor for the Jewish people. And as we say, Ken tiyeh lanu, it should be for us as well. What exactly was going on over there? What are these four things the Jewish people had? Well, on the surface of things, I remember when it comes to Megillat Esther, you got to look at it on the surface, and just like you want to enjoy the ocean, you can see the wonderful undulating waves on the surface and enjoy it, but there's a whole world underneath the surface, the waves. And so too the Megillah has a surface, a pshat, and then you're going to dive a little bit deeper in order to get the richness of the flora and the context and what's happening in the Megillah. So on the surface, when it says the Jewish people had orah, light, v'simcha, happiness, sason, joy, and vikar, honor, it means until this point, the Jewish people had a decree over their heads, this Damocles sword that Haman had put over them, they're about to be killed. Many Jews hid themselves away, and what happened was, now there was light to them, they were able to come out, right, into the open, they were happy, they couldn't be happy before because there was a decree they were going to die, right, which now they felt had been averted to a large, not complete, but at least to a large degree. The Sason, they were joyful, Vikar, and there was a lot of honor. Before they were trampled, people would laugh at them, we're going to kill her in a year's time. That had stopped. Most of the people stopped bullying and intimidating the Jews, especially those in Shushan, and therefore they were left alone. The Gemara says, actually, these four words, Orah, Simcha, Sason, Vikar, are actually four different things. Orah, Torah. Orah and Torah are connected because Torah is light. Simcha is a code word for Jewish holidays. V'samachta b'chagecha. You should be happy on your holidays. So the Jewish people now had Torah, say the rabbis, now we're going below the surface. They had Jewish holidays. They had Sason, there's a verse that connects the mitzvah of Brit Milah to Sason, to great joy. Vikar and Tefillin, they had the mitzvah of Tefillin. What? What do you mean they had these mitzvot? Didn't we always have these mitzvot? Didn't the Jewish people always get to celebrate? This is 1,000 years after giving the Torah. They always had Shabbat. They always kept Shabbat. They always had Jewish holidays. They always had a Brit Milah, and the Jewish men were always wearing tefillin. So what exactly are these words telling us? And why is it using code words to tell us? Why doesn't it tell us that now the Jewish people had Shabbat, holidays, Brit Milah, and tefillin? So on the surface, the answer is because up to this point, they weren't able to keep Shabbat at Jewish holidays. Part of the decree of Haman, which now became widespread, was that all these things were forbidden, just like the Greeks, many years later, and the Romans after them, and many others throughout Jewish history, ban certain mitzvot from the Jewish people, such as Shabbat, a very important mitzvah, such as Jewish holidays, such as tracking the moon so we know when the Jewish holidays even fall out, such as doing a Brit Milah, right? Just like in Russia and Hungary after the Second World War, they were forbidden activities, and tefillin were also forbidden. Those things were forbidden, and now the Jewish people were able to do them again. So on the surface, what the Megillah is telling us is that these activities were forbidden, and now the Jewish people could celebrate and actually do these activities again. Which leaves us with one more question. Why doesn't the Megillah just tell us they couldn't do these mitzvot, and now they could? Why did he use these code words, which are connected via Torah verses? Now the Jewish people have light, and happiness, and joy, and honor. And the rabbis give us an unbelievable explanation, which is one of the main reasons that the holiday of Purim is still considered so special for thousands of years since these events happened. And the answer, and that is, these four code words that Mordechai and Esther put into the Megillah tell us that this event of Purim was such an epic event that the Jewish people had a brand new relationship. You see, they always kept Shabbat, but now it was a Shabbat that was just amazing. It was a new simcha in the Jewish holidays. And there was a new aura, a new light. And there was a new feeling and connection when they performed the Brit Milah. And when the man put on tefillin, they felt a new love that never existed. You see, Purim isn't just an event of a great miracle that the Jewish people survived. It's also a new beginning. So much so that the Gemara tells us that at Mount Sinai, the Jewish people received the Torah, but they were scared because they knew that if they didn't receive the Torah and didn't accept it, there were going to be major ramifications. So they realized there was a great responsibility that came with the Torah. And that's when the Torah was given to Mount Sinai in the Jewish year 2448. There was thunder and there was lightning, and it was a very scary, awesome event. And that was necessary for the Jewish people to receive the Torah. It couldn't only be taken on voluntarily, which it was as well. There had to be a certain amount of coercion that went into it. However, says the Gemara, you know what happened? Many years later, in the days of Achashverosh and Mordechai and Esther, and yes, even Haman, the Jewish people were so happy that they were able to survive this terrible decree from Haman the Amalekite, that not only did they carry on keeping Torah mitzvot, Jewish holidays, Brit Milah and Tefillin, those mitzvot took on a whole new meaning. And for the rest of history, Torah had a new light that was injected into it. That's the Orah. And the simcha of Shabbat and the Jewish holidays was a brand new joy that they've never actually experienced before. It was something brand new. It was actually, say the rabbis, something unbelievable, a brand new acceptance of the Torah. What started at Mount, it's like bookends. What started at Mount Sinai continued like an arc, but actually came to a close on Purim. Purim isn't just another event in history, it's a finishing off of what started at Mount Sinai and what took maybe over 1,000 years completed at Purim. Because Sinai was a connection of fear and responsibility to God. But the Purim miracle was something completely different. It was actually a feeling of love. They started to enjoy being Jewish and feel a pride they never felt before. I want to think of a modern equivalent, small but an important modern equivalent is Jewish people always felt a connection to the land of Israel. We have for thousands of years. But you know what? After the war, after the Holocaust, and after 1948, suddenly the land of Israel took on a whole new relevance and existence, right? With the Aliyah and the Jewish people coming to live, and our brothers and sisters from all the four corners of the earth now joining each other in the land of Israel. You can't compare it. My mother, she lived and be well, was born in Israel. As a child, she couldn't just visit the Western Wall. My grandmother came from the Middle East, lived in Israel. You couldn't just walk in. It was a very scary time and place. Now, it's a whole new existence. But Israel's Israel, yeah. But certain things happen that change the landscape of Jewish history. The Purim story isn't just an event. It's a monumental and life-changing experience. And so the celebration of Purim isn't just, oh, we're so happy we survived and that's it. It's actually a brand new Judaism. Because Judaism, I know it sounds unusual, but evolves over time. And our relationship to certain events, people, mitzvot, will also evolve as well. And so we sing out these words. We sing out these words during the Megillah because we're not just saying that Jewish people had Torah. Now the Torah was light. We could really get a lot more out of it. And the Jewish holidays, they could have been a bit of a burden and a little bit of, but now they were such an exciting, happy time that there was a brand new connection. And when you brought a boy, when a mother and father bring their child for a Brit Milah, the celebration was all that much more and has been ever since. So the happiness is something that carries on. It's actually so great. And we'll see one of the reasons, we've already looked at one of the reasons that we get dressed up on Purim is because many of the events that are happening in the Megillah involve clothing. And so too, we are testifying that we're also just wearing clothing all year, but the real us is underneath. But actually, there's another reason. This was such a powerful time for the Jewish people. Things had flipped around. V'nahafachu says in Megillah, so much that people at one point wanted to kill all the Jews, and now they wanted to honor the Jewish people, that many, many non-Jewish people converted to Judaism. But their conversion was purely external. Megillah tells us, mityahadim, right? Mi'am ha'aretz. Many people started to convert, but we weren't so sure of their conversion, right? Because we want to see converts who are honest and loving and want to be involved. But there were so many converts who just like, hey, we're Jewish, right? It's like Hollywood. Suddenly everyone wants to become Jewish because you're Jewish, you know someone's cousin, and then get a job. You should realize that most of Jewish history was not like that. Yeah, Poland, 1943, not so many people converting to Judaism, as you can expect, right? That's absolutely for sure. And so that's another reason that we get dressed up. There's one more reason. Somebody gets dressed up in the Bible. Do you know who that is? There's a story in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, when somebody gets dressed up as somebody else in order to receive a blessing. That's Jacob, Yaakov Avinu. Jacob, our forefather. He wants to get the blessing which his twin brother Esau had sold to him, the birthright, the Bechor. And he gets dressed up as his brother in order to take the brachot that were rightfully his, because his brother did sell them for a bowl of beans, literally a bowl of lentils or beans, adashim, in order to rid himself of that responsibility. Comes along Yaakov and gets dressed up under his mother's advice, right, Rebecca, in order to get the blessings from his father, Isaac. And we do the same things. We also get dressed up to say, this is the real us underneath, and we're here to receive our great blessings, and we're going to continue in the tradition of Yaakov, our forefather, to get the blessings. We have to dress up a little bit sometimes in order to get that. So be it. However, the date rolled around. The 13th day of the 12th month, the Jewish month of Adar, that's the last month in the calendar before the first month of Nisan. And still many people came to try to kill and attack the Jewish people. 500-ish. 500 men came, and these were very important people. Maybe they had more people with them. All in all, there could have been tens of thousands, says the Gemara, who actually said, it could have been millions, but fortunately it was only tens of thousands who came to kill the Jewish people. Not a single Jewish life was lost. They were able to defend themselves, and they never, no Jew, took even one spoil from any war or battle. They said, we're here to defend ourselves. We are purely defensive. We don't want any spoils. That was the mistake that King Saul made when he fought Amalek. He took the spoils of war that he was forbidden from doing. In order to rectify that mistake that King Saul made, which ended up him losing the kingship and moving to King David, the Jewish people said, we learned our lesson. We're going to defend ourselves. And that has been the Jewish tradition in war as well. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, we want to defend. We're not getting in wars just to hurt people and get their money from them, right? They want to hurt us. We're entitled to defend ourselves. And that's what happened. And then they took the 10 sons of Haman and they hanged them. And if you have a look in your Megillah, it appears as 2 columns. The names of Haman's sons, right, is written over here, and the et, the additional connection that connects all of them. And this design, which you see in similar designs elsewhere, but this is a lot unique, it's just 2 columns. And this represents the long gallows, the 50 cubits, 75 to 100 foot gallows that they used to hang Haman and eventually his 10 sons. And the gallows eventually will fall. So the kingship and the leadership of Haman and Amalek will eventually fall as well. However, there's one little last piece to this celebration. So now, there's a war and battle on the 13th, and by the way, they were fasting on that day, and that as a merit to their success, the next day was a big celebration on the 14th of Adar, except in Shushan. Shushan Abira, which was the capital, things happened a day later. The battle raged an extra day, and they celebrated a day later. When Mordechai and Esther established the mitzvot and the time of Purim, they went with 2 different times. Purim for the entire world. Being on the 14th, we celebrate Purim as a national holiday. And I'll tell you in a moment what we do in order to celebrate. That celebration they did back then, we still do today. However, in Shushan, in the walled city of Shushan, they did something else. They battled a day later on the 14th, and they celebrated on the 15th. Mordechai and Esther said, fine. In order to remember this extra day of battle, when the people of Shushan were doing it, we're going to make a holiday called Shushan Purim. Shushan Purim is a day after Purim, and it is celebrated in any city around the world, which today I believe is just one that we know about for sure. Although there were others as well, right? Aker, right? Well, could have been one of them, maybe Yaffo. But we know for sure that Jerusalem is a walled city. Any city that was walled from when the Jewish people entered into Israel has the status as Shushan and celebrates Purim a day later. So to this very day, we all keep Purim on the 14th, right? But Jewish people who live in Jerusalem the 15th will celebrate it then and there. So how do we celebrate? How do they celebrate then? And how do we celebrate the Jewish people? So we celebrate spiritually by lighting candles, the Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah. So Hanukkah was a spiritual threat, and now we had a connection problem, I'm back. So Purim was a physical threat against the Jewish people. So we celebrate physically by eating and drinking and enjoying ourselves. And we want everyone to enjoy ourselves. So Mordechai and Esther says, make for yourself a mishteh, a beautiful feast which has simcha, umishloach manot, and give foods to other people so they have food to eat as well, because maybe they don't have anything to eat. So send lots of gifts to your friends and family in order so they can enjoy the entire holiday as well. And you should give matanot levionim, which is money to poor people. Money to poor people, so that they too can have money to spend. And when poor people receive money, they feel good. So those are the mitzvot to increase joy. We eat lots of good food and drink wine, and we celebrate together, and we drink alcohol, not too much, and we give foods to each other, at least 2 different foods, to friends and family, mishloch manot in the plural, at least 2 foods, and we give money to poor people. Actually, during the rest of the year, if a poor person asks you for money, it's a great mitzvah to give it. But if you don't want to, because you don't know if they're really poor or whatever the situation is, you may not have to. Okay? But Purim is different. Whoever opens their hand, you've got to give tzedakah to. Because we just want to increase joy. And that's what Mordechai and Esther set up as the holiday of Purim. And we read the Megillah twice, at nighttime, because we were saved at nighttime, and by day, because we were saved by day as well. So 2 reading of the Megillah, men and women and child. Usually women are not obligated in mitzvot that are time bound, but this is different because the women were saved as well, and Esther is our heroine, of course she's a woman, and therefore everyone partakes and celebrates on this day, gets dressed up. One last idea. You're going to love this, so listen carefully. What toy do we play with on Hanukkah? And what toy do we play with on Purim? So on Hanukkah, we use the dreidel. Right? We spin the dreidel on Hanukkah. Spin it around, right? The 4 sides of the dreidel. On Purim, we use the graga, the rashan, the noisemaker when we hear Haman's name. That's the toy. Now look at something beautiful over here. Remember, Hanukkah was an open miracle that defied nature. So the events are turning around and the hand comes, God's hand is visible. God's name is mentioned right through every part of the Hanukkah events, right? The miracle of the oil and the battle of the few against the many. So you see God's hand turning the events, just like the hand spins the dreidel from above. But Purim is different. On Purim, my friends, the graga is turned around and God's hand is hidden. Because remember, God is not visible in the story. His name is not mentioned, but he's underneath, turning the events. So the graga spins the events around, but God's hand is hidden underneath. That is the secret, even of the toys that we use. The open miracles of Hanukkah that turns the events from the top, and the hidden miracle of Purim that is turning the events underneath. And everything is turning around because in the end, it's all God's plan to save the Jewish people. Those are our mitzvot of Purim, and that is how we celebrate every single year. And the day before Purim, we fast. We have what's called Tanit Esther. That's ordered to remember the 3-day fast that the entire Jewish people took on because of Esther. Especially women are careful to try to fast, and it's not a major fast. It just lasts from morning till nightfall on the day before Purim, and then we go into Purim itself by reading the Megillah. But it's a very special fast as well. I'll share one last idea, and it goes like this, and maybe I'll speak more about this next week. The Rambam Maimonides tells us that in the future, when the Messiah comes, all the Jewish holidays are going to disappear. We won't need them anymore. You're not going to need Pesach anymore, because the redemption of the Messiah coming is far going to exceed the redemption from Egypt. So we're not going to need that anymore. And even the books of the prophets won't really be needed, because they're all about the arrival of the Messiah. And once the Messiah has arrived, we're not going to need them anymore. It makes sense. But the Purim story, the Megillah, the book of Esther, and, my friends, and the holiday of Purim itself will always be there, says Megillah Le'olam, forever. There's something about this redemptive story of Mordechai and Esther and the entire Jewish people and the Oras, Simchas, Sasan, Vikar that is never going to go away and is actually messianic in its nature. The methodology and the secrets of this story go far beyond the arrival of the Messiah and has some future world ramifications that right now we may not even fully realize. Friends, that was part 3 of Megillat Esther. Next week we'll take a new aspect to the story and relate that to the holiday itself, which will, God willing, be next week. Have a wonderful and successful evening. Tomorrow, God willing, we'll be discussing elements of the Megillah from a different angle when we talk about extreme responsibility. That'll be 12 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.